Subway Surfers, here we go. Long time since the last been here. Wait, what's this? The original Angry Birds is coming back? Yeah, that video really didn't age well.
It looks like they'll never return from the looks of things.
Hey guys, and welcome back to an actual video for the first time in forever. But besides that, you're probably thinking, come on MOG, make another Angry Birds video. And well, as you've probably read from the title, something very unforeseen has happened during my hiatus, which I really wanted to cover. That's right, Rovio themselves, yes, Rovio, the same company that pumps out unoriginal match-free games year after year, actually decided to turn back and listen to the fans after 2 years of the franchise and turmoil. Well, I mean, it still kind of is. Yes, bring back 2012 and me with my terrible £15 Turtle Beach headset actually managed to get a multi-million-dollar gaming company to listen, and listen they did. As I covered in my Return of the Geek video, Rovio in late 2021 announced they are working on a remake of the original Angry Birds game inside of the Unity engine for modern devices, which for many people including myself, were all beyond happy for the anticipated return of undoubtedly the most popular mobile game of all time. Of course, I'm not going to cover the entire statement, you can read that on Rovio's website if you want, link to that is in the description, but in general they did explain why the game was removed, saying it was due to the game being poorly optimized for newer devices and changing market requirements, which to be honest I mostly agree with. Some older Angry Birds games have licenses to feature different IPs, such as Rio and the Star Wars games, which have long expired by now, and some Angry Birds games like Classic and Seasons have just become bloated messes, with tons of unnecessary content being added over the years. Now like I said, I do agree with Rovio's reasoning, though part of me still thinks that it was influenced by their decision to move on and push people to their newer games, which again, from a business perspective, is pretty reasonable. Though the return of the original Angry Birds game was undoubtedly influenced by Alexandre Pelletier-Normand, becoming the CEO of Rovio in early 2021. So after months of waiting, Rovio finally launched the game on March 31st, with a classy trailer for 89p on iOS and Android. With that being said though, I feel as if it's important to mention that this remake obviously isn't Rovio's main objective, as after all, they are an entertainment company now, and are expanding the Angry Birds IP into different markets such as movies and TV, like with the newly released Angry Birds Netflix show. The newly introduced Rovio Classics series is of course dependent on the success of this remake, so we could see more titles be released if this one does well, and it's actually exceeding expectations. The remake is topping App Store charts and is being reviewed by many news outlets, which is a massive win for Rovio and the Angry Birds franchise, as well as gaining over 100,000 downloads shortly after the launch, which does show that the game is doing well, and only time will tell to see if the game is successful enough for Rovio to release more classic games. Of course, it's never going to be as popular as it once was, but it's great to see that the original Angry Birds game is still loved by many people to this day. So that brings me to actually covering the game in this video. Now, before I actually do that, I asked you guys on Twitter to tell me your thoughts on the remake, and whilst I'm really thankful and agree with what everyone said, I'll try my best to fit in the tweets in this segment, but if one thing's clear is that everyone mentioned that the game is full of bugs, which is to be expected from a newly released game, even if it's put through playtests. And of course with a remake, the physics isn't exactly going to be on par with the original, and there's definitely going to be some missing content here and there, which upon observation is definitely the case with Rovio Classics Angry Birds. Now of course, like I said, the physics aren't spot on, and we'll have a look at that shortly. The game of course isn't going to feature all the content from the 2012 version, but it's great to see how close it is to the original, and maybe Rovio will release some more content for it, and Rovio have been releasing new updates patching all these bugs, so obviously some problems that I highlight in this video are probably going to be fixed by the time this video has been on my channel for a while. Now after all that being said, let's finally have a look at the game after I had a massive headache trying to get it to work with BlueStacks, especially when I tried to install the original version of Angry Birds for comparison, because it just kept crashing on my PC every single time. But hey, at least the actual original PC port for Angry Birds still works. Now let's get to it. So straight off the bat, this remake is spot on in terms of providing a similar look and feel as to what Angry Birds Classic supplied us with, even with the Rovio animation on startup, as well as the title music which just unleashed a sense of nostalgia. Though if one thing's for certain, I don't think Angry Birds are supposed to be dead while they're flying. Yeah, might have to fix that one, Rovio. But hey, at least Rovio included the account system instead of actually patching all the bugs in the game. In terms of all the episodes, this remake features the first 8 episodes from the original game, rebuilt from the ground up on the Unity engine, as well as the golden eggs. Though once compared with the classic game, there are quite a few missing, as Rovio probably removed quite a few episodes which they deemed unnecessary. I guess this is a downside, but Rovio did say he wanted to make this version as close to the 2012 version of the game in particular as possible, which gives us a reason as to why most episodes such as Short Fuse and Red's Mighty Feathers aren't featured in this game. Now let's get straight into the gameplay, and while there isn't really anything new to talk about as it's just the original Angry Birds experience, which to many is the sole reason as to why fans persuaded Rovio to remake the original game. Playing through the first few episodes, I found myself reaching back to my younger self from 2012, trying to remember how to beat these tricky levels in certain episodes, which I thought was an enjoyable nostalgic experience, and in terms of the gameplay in general, well, it's great, there isn't too many problems with it, though it doesn't take a genius to see that the physics feel a bit off compared to the original, but once you get used to it, the game becomes a breeze. Though like I said, this is a remake and the physics aren't going to be spot on. Though if I had to compare the physics in general to another game, I would say this is quite similar to Angry Birds Friends physics, so it's most likely that Rovio ported a lot of assets from that game into this game, which would probably explain why this game came out pretty quickly, and I mean, it isn't a bad thing, though it's something you'd notice while playing the game. Though from clips I've seen on Twitter and from me playing the game myself, the physics definitely do need some tweaking. All the birds themselves are present and feel great, with some classic tweaks, such as Bomb's battle cry being reverted back to the original older battle cry, which I found to be pretty neat. Of course, we can't forget Mighty Eagle, who has also returned in this remake as a free power-up, with all the other power-ups and bird coins being removed in this version, which to me is a bonus. Though some people have pointed out that Rovio have been advertising in the pause menu, even though this is a paid game, but after all, they're only advertising their own games outside of gameplay, which many other developers do in paid games, so that's fine I guess. Now, after playing the game for a bit and getting to grips with it, is Rovio Classics Angry Birds any good, and do I recommend you guys download it? Well, aside from a few bugs and glitches Rovio still need to fix, I do recommend you guys download it, as well, it's a pretty good remake, and well, it's just straight up classic Angry Birds, without any catches or problems, and Rovio have done a good job remaking this game. Though the thing in particular you guys probably clicked on this video for, is do I think it's as good as the original? Well, it depends on what your views on the original game are in general. If you compare the remake to the latest version of the original game from 2019, then 100% hands down in my opinion, this remake is far superior in most ways, as well, there's no ads, microtransactions, bloated content, I could go on. But then again, when you compare the remake to an older version of the original game, let's say from 2012, and to be honest, the older version is superior as it's more refined, there's as many bugs, and it's overall just a more smooth, better game. Well, that's what I've found from playing it anyway. But then when you look at both of the games side by side, it's only little things in the remake that make the older version superior, though most people won't notice these differences, and in my opinion, this remake is still pretty good and worth buying. Though like they've said, Rovio made this game for the fans, and it wasn't their main priority, so these bugs and glitches in the game are probably as a result from Rovio rushing to develop the game. Though as it's made for the fans, this means that Rovio don't really care about how much this game makes, as it's probably not going to contribute that much to Rovio's total revenue. And when compared to their modern games, let's say Angry Birds 2, the more pay-to-win structure of that game really wipes out any revenue made from this game. Though this isn't saying Rovio don't want this game to do well, they obviously want it to do well, and that means if it does do well, we can get possibly more classic games brought back. So in a way, Rovio have kind of got us fans in a trap, where if we spend more money on the game, then well, they'll release more classic games. So yeah, with Rovio Classics Angry Birds, it's quite an interesting situation, but I definitely still do recommend it. And in terms of the franchise itself, which I've covered a lot on this channel, I do think Rovio are now taking Angry Birds in the right direction, communicating with fans again, releasing decent games again, and in general closing that gap between classic and modern fans. But bringing back 2012 has only just begun, and depending on if the game does well enough, Rovio could remake a few more classic games without licensing issues. So in a nutshell, Angry Birds has partially returned, and I do see some more classic games being brought back in the future, as well as the franchise finally healing, so I guess the future of Angry Birds may be good after all, after what I said in my other video. Yep, that video really did age well. But hey, at least I predicted the comeback of this game. Though from talking about Angry Birds, I can't forget to mention that Rovio have actually turned the official Angry Birds Twitter account into Red's own personal account, which I really think is funny. And quite a lot of the stuff on there is pretty cool, so I do recommend you guys go and check out Red on Twitter. Yep, one of the only good things about that app. Now I guess after all these videos and me talking over and over again, I guess this is the end of my mini Angry Birds saga on this channel. Well, aside from the bowling video, which don't worry guys, that is actually still in the works. The franchise is finally getting back to grips, slowly but surely, as well as Rovio improving themselves, which is great to see, and for one time, I'm happy to prove myself wrong. Okay, I think that's enough self-burn for one day. So with all that being said, I guess this is the end of looking at this Angry Birds remake, as well as looking over the partial return of the franchise in general. Again, I know it's been a while since I uploaded a video, but don't worry, my GCSEs, which have pretty much been plaguing me not to upload videos have now finally ended, so now I have all the time in the world to make videos again. So rest assured, the geek has actually returned this time. So I'll be heading right back to YouTube, making more videos and looking into the history behind more iconic games over the years, and other bonus videos and streams which I'm really looking forward to. So even though this Angry Birds saga is pretty much ended, do stick around as I'm going to make more videos on popular games from the past and current games as well. Pretty much any game you guys want me to cover. And hey, besides from the bowling video, I might actually end up making another Angry Birds video in the future, though that probably won't be for a while, as I'm going to try and focus my channel on other games. And hey, maybe other content that you guys haven't seen before, which I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy, so stay tuned for that as well. Make sure to comment down below what games you guys want to see me cover next. So with all that being said, make sure to subscribe to the channel and enable notifications so when I upload new videos, you'll get notified straight away. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, as well as check out my Discord server and other socials, which are all in the description. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and for the first time in a while, I'll see you in the next one. I guess that aged pretty well.